And we have that sort of scene, if you can imagine it, about once every 3 weeks. And well, if her idea of having a good time is feeling miserable, who am I to interfere in the twilight of her life? But look, this isn't about her. It's about me. Oh, I'm not just a pretty face. I've got a job. I teach 6-year-olds in an infant school. And I'm quite ambitious. I fancy becoming some new kind of headmistress someday, but, well, I don't know. If you could see it, let's say it's assembly when I'm late.
All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small. All things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. Each little flower that opens, each little bird that sings. He made the glowing colours, he made their tiny wings. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small. All things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all.
Now, let me see you all sitting very quietly, fingers on lips. And waiting, Doc, fingers on lips. Thank you. Now Mrs. Malpass will tell the story, and today the story is called The Wonderful Box.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Jane, and she used to go to school just like you. But she wasn't a very happy little girl. Because she was so poor, she had no money to buy toys. Every day she'd see the other children playing with their toys, the boys with their footballs, and the girls with their dolls. But oh, how she wished she had something of her very own to play with. One day, as she was walking to school, she suddenly noticed something lying in the gutter. What do you think it was? Shh. It was a little wooden box. It was shiny and carved with a gold lock and a key in it. And Jane thought she'd never seen such a beautiful box. She bent down, turned it round in her hand, and lifted the lid. And what a surprise! It was a musical box. Slowly Jane closed the lid and clutched it tight. But then she thought, it's not my box. So she stood there clutching it, wondering what to do. What do you think she did? Shh! No, she was a good, honest little girl, although she was so poor, and she did take it to her teacher. And the teacher went with her to the police station, and the policeman said he was very sorry, but a little rich boy had come in a big shiny car and said he'd lost the box. So you can imagine how sad Jane was. But the very next day, the same big shiny car drew up outside Jane's house, and out of it got the little rich boy and his daddy with a parcel. Another box. And slowly Jane lifted the lid, and the box played a beautiful tune for Jane. Can you hear the music? I can hear the music. Cup your hands to your ears when I open the box. And it was all because Jane was a good, honest little girl who respected other people's property. And if you're all good, honest boys and girls, and I'm sure you are, who knows? Maybe one day you'll have a wonderful box of your own.
Stop. Hands together. Close eyes. Tight. Everybody. Mrs. Fidget will say the prayer for today.
Oh, God. music and movement today. Look after us at playtime and help us not to get into fights. Well, I know that some of us have to get into fights, but most of them are just stupid and, well, we only hurt each other and other people. Oh God, it would be ever so good of you if you could help us not to kick other people and spit at each other, or lose our tempers, or hurt anybody's feelings, or be very boring. Amen.
Amen. One more. Some boys in this school have been doing some very bad things. They know who they are, and I know who they are. Yes, I'm talking about the boys' toilets. Now, some of us here are not yet 5 years old, and some of us are nearly 7. But I think we all know how we should behave in the toilets. I am not pleased about this, and you know what that means. Oh, I know who it is, all right. Some silly, dirty, nasty little boys. They know who they are, and they know I know. And they'll come and tell me about it, because they know they will not be forgiven unless they do. Well, we won't say any more about it now, but the silly, dirty, nasty little boys will come to my room, and the rest of you will be very, very careful about what you do in the toilets. That's all. Read out quietly. Mrs. Lancaster? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Well, that's it. It doesn't take very long, but the idea is to set the tone for the day. It's a regular sort of assembly as these things go. You know, song, hymn, prayer, frolicking. Well, some of the sentiment is wholesome. Be good, be honest, don't be off the wall. But there's got to be more to it than that.
Mrs. Fidget?
Oh, yes, Mrs. Smith.
Can I have a word, Mrs. Fidget?
Of course, Mrs. Smith. It's Ms. Strong, if you remember. Sorry.
Oh, yes. It is rather confusing changing your name like that, Ms. Strong. Don't you find it confuses the children?
Well, I did explain it to them, and they thought it was quite a good idea. Well, it was my name before I married Mr. Fidget.
You did explain it to me.
Yes, well, who'd be a fidget when they could be as strong? Well, my husband said that a rose by any other name could smell as sweet, which was quite apt and poetic for him, but, well, it's a point of principle with me.
We have been through all this.
Yes, it's just that nobody seems to remember. Oh, not you. I know that you have an awful lot to remember.
Yes, and while we're on points of principle, could I ask you whether it's a point of principle with you to depart from the prayers in the book, as you did this morning?
It's not that, it's just that, well, I forgot it was my turn to do prayers and I forgot the book, so I just sort of extemporized.
Did you?
Oh, didn't you like it then?
Well, that's hardly the point, Miss Strong. I have the parents to contend with in the office.
Oh, yes, the office.
I think it's best if we keep to the pattern in the book, don't you? I see you putting for 1 or 2 deputy head posts.
Oh, I didn't realise that you'd...
Yes, I had 2 requests for confidential reports.
Yes, well, I thought I'd have a go, you know.
Thought you'd have a go?
Yes, you know.
No, I don't think I do know.
Well, I do have quite a lot of experience now.
Yes, as a classroom teacher.
And I've got quite a few ideas that I'd like... Oh. Well, maybe I'd better, maybe when you've got some more time.
Yes?
Well, I'd like to involve the parents a whole lot more. You know, let them come in whenever they like and get stuck in with the kids. Well, I know what some of the parents are like. but they wouldn't necessarily...
And of course you'd be happy to take full responsibility for admitting some and excluding others, and handling any complaints to the education office.
Yeah, well, I do realise there might be problems, but, well, it'd be worth it to get a few fathers into the school. I mean, it's really sinister the way you hardly ever see a man in an infant school.
Sinister?
Yes, well, perhaps not that, but, well, what it all boils down to is that I'd like schools to be places where people can have lots of fun and excitement, the kids and the teachers, instead of walking around looking miserable, wondering, what have we done wrong now? Oh, I seem to have got carried away.
Mrs. Mills Scott, won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Now, this school is in a very difficult area, and yet it enjoys a very high reputation,
Yes, I know.
whatever you happen to think of it.
I know it does, Mrs. Smell.
When I took it over 10 years ago, it was a sink. Well, I could use other words. The children were like little wild animals, and the staff were totally demoralized. The director of education took me aside. Mrs. Smell, he said, it is your task to cleanse the audience stables, and that is what I have done. And now this is a school that parents are proud to send their children to. It can even accommodate an occasional eccentric, really strong, without having its values seriously undermined.
I don't just undermine your values, Mrs. Smale.
I know that. You're a talented classroom teacher, and I think you have a good deal of flair. I think that's where you might make your most valuable contribution, don't you?
It's not that I want to get away from class teaching.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And I'm pleased that you're beginning to take an interest in the wider issues involved in the running of a school of this kind. Miss Strong, I shall be happy to discuss them with you when you've had a little more time to sort out your ideas. Well, work to do. Work to do.
I thought I handled that really well, don't you? Of course, she doesn't think I could do it. Christ, you don't have to be like that to run a school, do you? Never come across a head teacher like me, though. Rose, head teacher. Seems to be a bit of a credibility out there. Oh, she was just not. Actually, my big mistake was mentioning fun and excitement. Might as well just have used a rude word. Oh, well, Mrs. Snail, I feel that schools ought to be places where people can have lots of bollocks and balls. Don't you feel like that? No, I don't feel like that. I mean, take the other day in the staff. Peaceful enough scene.
I think it's easing now.
Best not to talk, Bella. Just try to relax.
Headache again?
Me too.
Oh, rotten luck.
You're so good at it, Mrs. Smell. Much better than my husband, really.
It's a knack.
No, it's more than that. I've tried to show him so many times, and really he'd like to help, but he's no use at all.
Well, I think that's often the way.
It's as if he's got no imagination in his fingers, as if he can't feed anything through them. Oh, that's it there. And then again, I think he gets bored.
Well, men, they haven't the patience. What do you say, Miss Rose?
Well, some have, some haven't, I suppose. Oh, in my limited experience, I'd say you're quite right.
You can't expect it of them, can you?
Why not?
You just wouldn't. It doesn't seem to be in their nature.
Steady, Bella. Don't let yourself tense up.
Just forget about me. I'll read the paper.
It was that 6 o'clock news bulletin last night that set it off. I felt myself tense up and the head just starting to throb.
What was it?
That case.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think I'm a broad-minded person. I don't think I'm easily shocked. But to think of putting all those details on the television?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a bit squirmy. Having your private life splurged all over the screen. Seen from the outside. Must feel terrible.
I wasn't thinking of him. I was thinking of the children watching it on television.
Yes.
Yes, but they didn't exactly show anything, did they? I mean, I thought we were just talking about it.
Don't you think that's enough? At 6 o'clock?
What?
Homosexuality.
We're supposed to educate children in an atmosphere like that.
Yes, but don't you think that in a way it's good for children to hear about that sort of thing at home, and you can explain it to them.
How can I explain a thing like that to my daughter? She's never heard of such a thing.
Well, of course she hasn't.
You've got to protect them, haven't you?
Right. It becomes more difficult day by day. I can ensure that they're not damaged by anything like that while they're in my school. But I don't know how people can expect us to teach them about love, proper atmosphere, when as soon as they go home, they're exposed to that.
Yes.
Yes, but I mean, it's just a kind of love. Well, what if they love each other? That's not so terrible, is it? I mean, you don't have to think about what they do if it upsets you. I mean, sex is mostly feelings and emotions and that, isn't it?
Not for men.
Yeah, well, perhaps not so much, but honestly, those are common.
1 in 10 I've read, but I can't credit that.
Oh, I can. There's so much of it on television and in the newspapers. If people didn't hear so much about it, they wouldn't have it on their minds. And are people silly enough to do anything if they think it's in the fashion?
Oh, Beryl, you're a marvel. You make it sound like wedge heels. I mean, you don't read about it in the paper and say, ooh, long evening skirts are out, but dykes are in. I better rush down to the precinct and get them before they all go.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Homosexuality, it's not a fashion, it's the way you're born and brought up. Anyway, none of us are 100% one way or the other.
Please,
I'm sorry. But, well, look, 1 in 10. I mean, take the kids in this school. What is it, 35 to a class? Well, chances are some of them will grow up to be gay.
You're talking about 6-year-old boys.
I don't mean now. And anyway, I don't think it's so terrible. I've got lots of gay friends, and I'm sure you have too.
I most certainly
I'm sure you have. Nice people, people you like, but well, you never know who because of the way you talk about it.
Much rather not talk about it at all.
Yes, well, perhaps it's best you never did, because think of the harm you might cause if you did.
Harm?
Well, how do you know that I'm not gay?
Because you're married!
Sorry. They are my sisters.